Hello. What do learners actually take away from a language lesson? As teachers, we often leave the classroom with a sense of what we taught, but what learners learned or what they think they learned can be something quite different. This brings us to a key concept in second language acquisition, namely uptake. In simple terms, uptake is what learners report having learned during a lesson. It's their own perception of what they got out of the class, whether that's a new word, a grammar point, a pronunciation feature, or even a cultural reference. But here's the twist. What learners say they've learned doesn't always match what the teacher intended to teach. Let's say a teacher's goal is to teach the use of conditionals, and the class goes smoothly and the teacher presents the rules, their practice activities, and students seem engaged. But later, when asked what they learned, the student says, "Today I learned how to say fair enough when I agree with someone." That expression might have come up casually during a discussion, and yet it stuck, and that's uptake. And here's another layer. Not every learner has the same uptake from the same lesson. Each student may walk away with something different depending on what caught their attention, what felt useful, or what made sense to them in the moment. And two factors seem to strongly influence uptake. The first is salience. In other words, how noticeable or prominent was the item during the lesson? Was it written on the board, repeated, practiced, or otherwise highlighted? And the more emphasis something gets, the more likely it is to be remembered. And the second factor is the source. Was the language item introduced by the teacher or by another learner? And interestingly, research suggests that learners tend to remember better the items that come from their classmates rather than from the teacher. And that might be because peer contributions feel more spontaneous, more relatable, or more relevant in the moment. So even though most lesson topics come from the teacher, it's often the learner-generated ones that stick. And what does that mean for us as teachers? Well, it reminds us to pay attention to what emerges in the classroom and in the lesson, and not just to what we plan. Students often take note of language that arises naturally in conversation, especially from their peers. And by noticing and supporting that emergent language, we can make it more salient and therefore more learnable. In short, uptake isn't always neat and tidy, but it's a powerful reminder that language learning is often unpredictable and that what matters most isn't always what we teach, but what learners take in. Anyway, thank you for watching.